I have something I want to get off my chest. I'm seeing people focus in cloud computing on infrastructure without thinking about the implications of that infrastructure on how it changes the business. And I realized this when I was talking to someone about how Lego works. So I want to explain to you why I think IT people are like Lego. Everything I know about clouds, I learned from Lego. And the most important thing about Lego is that it has two sides, a top and a bottom. IT operations is no fun. Racking and stacking machines, procuring stuff, deploying stuff, that's no fun. And so cloud computing made operations much easier because instead of racking and slacking, you're clicking and dragging. And we fixed some of the procurement problems and so on. But this was a very infrastructure-centric view of the world. And even though we've moved from physical to virtual equipment, operations is still no good. Very few people are good at managing clouds. Maybe this guy. What I mean by IT is a piece of Lego is that IT fits into a stack that turns resources below it into customer value above it. Now there's a reason why large cloud providers like Amazon are called web services and not clouds. If you go and look at Amazon's catalog of services, very few of them are related to the actual deployment of hardware or devices. The rest are services you can use on demand through simple APIs that scale without you having to worry about managing them. If you're an IT user, ultimately you have below you a set of boxes, switches, load balancers, firewalls, and so on, and above you a bunch of business users, people who want to do something useful in service of the business using that technology. If you simply connect those business users to the boxes beneath them, you've put yourself out of a job. IT's role is to make the business users able to do their job better by delivering them services that make them more effective at their job, do things faster with less overhead and so on. And IT's job is to make the use of boxes more efficient. Virtualization does this very well, automation, orchestration, and so on. Here's an example of why that's so important. Imagine that you have a business user who comes to you and says, I want a blog. The traditional IT response is going to be, well, here's an Apache, a WordPress, and a MySQL server. Go ahead and run those, install these things on them. Maybe we give them a machine image and everything's good. What happens when 10 people show up asking for the same thing? Now IT is managing 30 machines, and that's a nightmare because those 30 machines keep changing. For example, there might be a vulnerability that requires you to patch your WordPress, or a new enhancement that makes SQL faster, or even the installation of some front-end service like Memcache to speed things up. And having to ask all of those 10 users to implement that stuff across 10 copies of blogs, 30 machines, each of which is running different versions of software with different passwords, is simply unscalable. You haven't made anything better by creating a lot of machines the business can access immediately. All you've done is improve sprawl. It would be far better to the business if you were to create, for example, a properly architected multi-tier blog that had a Memcache or a CDN in front of it, and you gave those business users multi-tenant WordPress instances. This seems pretty obvious, and yet every day, every time we give a business user a virtual machine, we're ignoring these lessons. Down the bottom here, we need virtualization. Sure, it's great. It's really good for efficiency. But up here, these are services. They're needed for organizational effectiveness, and by the way, for your continued employment. If you simply think of pieces of Lego as having holes in the bottom and nothing on top, and you simply think of yourself as someone whose job it is to virtualize and make things more efficient, you're not helping the business to become more effective. Cloud computing, in the end, is not about giving people machines they can play with on their own. It's about making them more agile and able to do things better for the business.